A pleasant day, future mathematics teachers. For today's lesson, we'll be having this topic, factoring special products. But before we move on to the discussion proper, let us have a warm-up exercise. If you know the answer, please comment below. And then if you want to check if your answer is right or wrong, just continue playing the video. Determine whether the following are perfect squares. If so, find the square root. Alright. Number 1, 64. Is this a perfect square? The answer is yes. And the square root is 8. It's either positive or negative 8. Number 2, 36. Yes, that's a perfect square. And the square root is 6. How about number 3, 45? Is not a perfect square. Number 4, x squared. Yes, that's a perfect square and the square root is x. Y raised to 8. Is this a perfect square? Yes, that's a perfect square and the square root is y raised to 4. Right. If the given expression is a variable, take note of the exponent. If the exponent is an even number, then that expression is a perfect square. As you can see, we have here x squared where the exponent is 2 and 2 is an even number, so x squared is an example of perfect square expression. While here, y raised to 8, also the exponent is an even number which is 8. So that means y raised to 8 is an example of perfect square number or perfect square expression. Number 6, 4x to the 6. If we look into x raised to 6, we may say that x raised to 6 is a perfect square because its exponent is an even number. And then take a look at its numerical coefficient, 4. We know that 4 is a perfect square, so the answer here is yes. And the square root is 2x cubed. Number 7, 9y raised to 7. So obviously this is not a perfect square because 7 is an odd number, and an odd number as an exponent is not a perfect square. Next, we have 49p to the 10th power. P to the 10th power is a perfect square and 49 is also a perfect square. So yes, number 8, 49p raised to 10 is a perfect square and its square root is 70 to the 5th power. Okay, we move on. By the way, this presentation is from Paul Reinhardt and Winston. Factoring special products. Students apply basic factoring techniques to second and simple third degree polynomials. These techniques include finding a common factor for all terms in a polynomial, recognizing the difference of two squares, and recognizing the perfect squares of binomials. I know that you started factoring when you were in grade 8 or grade 7. You started doing this already, and this presentation will just be a recap on what you already know about special products or factoring special products, and in addition to that, we'll be applying that concept in solving problems. A trinomial is a perfect square if the first and last terms are perfect square. Okay, let's start with this. The middle term is 2 times 1 factor from the first term and 1 factor from the last term. Right. So, masasabi daw natin na ang isang trinomial ay perfect square if yung kanyang first term at saka last term ay perfect square. So, titignan mo muna yung kanyang first term at saka yung last term. Yun muna yung una mong tignan. Kapag yung dalawang terms na yon ay perfect square, then may chance na ang trinomial na ito ay perfect square. Then upon looking into whether the first and last terms are perfect squares, then you have to look for the middle term. And the middle term must be 2 times the product of the factor of the first term and 1 factor of the last term. let's have some example here. Take a look at this trinomial 9x squared plus 12x plus 4. The first thing that we have to examine is the first term and also the last term. Take a look, 9x squared is a perfect square and 4 is also a perfect square. Then look into the middle term. Sabi natin kanina, the middle term must be 2 times 1 factor from the first term and 1 factor from the last term. What is the factor of 9x squared? So you have 3x, and the factor of 4 is 2. And then 3x times 2 is equal to 6x. Then 2 times of that, 2 times of 6x is 12x. So that means that this trinomial is an example of a perfect square trinomial. Okay. Factoring perfect square trinomials. How do we do the factoring of perfect square trinomial? If the trinomial is a perfect square trinomial, then we can apply these steps. Suppose that the perfect square trinomial is in the form a squared plus 2ab plus b squared. So that is equal to a plus b times a plus b. And that is equal to the quantity of a plus b squared. And if the trinomial is in the form a squared minus 2ab plus b squared, it can be factored as a minus b times the quantity of a minus b, which is equal to the quantity of a minus b squared. Let's have an example for the first condition. Here we have x squared plus 6x plus 9, and we know that x squared plus 6x plus 9 is a perfect square trinomial upon observation or upon examining the terms. Because x squared is a perfect square, 9 is a perfect square, and 6x is the product of 2 and 1 factor of the first term and 1 factor of the last term. So, we may say that x squared plus 6x plus 9 is equal to the factor of the first term plus the factor of the third term multiplied by the quantity of x plus 3, and that is equal to the quantity of x plus 3 squared. For the second condition, we have here x squared minus 2x plus 1. Upon examination, you will see that this is a perfect square trinomial because x squared is a perfect square and 1 is also a perfect square. And negative 2 is a product of 2 times the factor of the first term, 1 factor of the first term, and 1 factor of the second term. So, you may write this perfect square trinomial, or you may factor it by writing the quantity x minus 1. So, nanggaling si x, that's the factor of x squared, one of the factors of x squared. So, nanggaling si 1, that's one of the factors of 1, because 1 times 1 is 1. And then negative here into both quantities since the middle term is negative. By the way, it will not change the value of the last term because negative 1 times negative 1 is still positive 1. Kaya lang tayo nagkaroon ng negative dito is to satisfy the sign of our second term. And then simplifying this further, you will have the quantity of x minus 1 squared. Okay, let's have an additional example. Recognizing and factoring perfect square trinomials. Determine whether each trinomial is a perfect square. If so, factor. If not, explain. Yan. So, ang gagawin natin dito, tingnan natin kung perfect square trinomial siya o hindi. Kapag perfect square trinomial, then we have to factor it. If not, then you explain bakit siya hindi naging perfect square trinomial. Here we have 9x squared minus 15x plus 64. The first thing that we have to do is to examine. Okay, examine, or you rewrite it. And then as you can see here, 9x squared can be factored as 3x times 3x. 64 can be factored as 8 times 8. So, perfect square parehas yung nasa dulo. Okay? Ano yung isang factor? Kuha ka doon. That is 3x. Yung isang factor dito, kuha ka. So, that's 8. You multiply it by 2. Tignan natin kung magiging 15, negative 15 siya. 3x times 8 is 24 times 2 is equal to 48. Anong ibig sabihin nun? This expression is not an example of perfect square trinomial because negative 15x yun, is not equal to this expression because 3x times 8 is 24 times 2 is 48x. So this is not an example of perfect square trinomial. Another example, we do the same. 81x squared plus 90x plus 25, you rewrite the given trinomial and then examine, tignan natin yung 81x squared and 25 are both perfect squared as you can see. Ang kailangan na lang nating i-satisfy yung middle term. Kuha ka ng isang factor doon, that is 9x. Another factor dito sa last term, that is 5. 9x times 5 is equal to 45x. You multiply it by 2, that is equal to 90x. So that means that this is an example of a perfect square trinomial. So what are the factors? The factors are 9x plus 5 times 9x plus 5. Yan. Here is another method with regards to computing the previous example. Determine whether each trinomial is a perfect square. Yan. So, you're right, a is equal to 9x, then b is equal to 5, then write the trinomial as a squared plus 2ab plus b squared. Ito yung kanina, no, dun sa ating definition. So, you will have 9x squared, here, your a is equal to 9x, the factor of 81x squared. So, you have 9x plus 2 times 9x plus 5, and then ano yung magiging b mo? Magiging b mo is the square root of 25, which is 5. And then write the trinomial as a plus b, the same answer, the quantity of 9x plus 5 squared. Another example, the same process, 36x squared minus 10x plus 14. By examination, you will see that 36x squared and 14, yung 36x squared is a perfect square, but 14 is not a perfect square. So agad-agad, pwede mo nang sabihin that this is not a perfect square trinomial because the last term is not a perfect square. Remember this, you can check your answer by using the FOIL method. Do you still remember the FOIL method? F stands for the first, O is for the outer, and then I is for the inner, and then L is for last. Yeah, the FOIL method. If you still remember when you were in grade 8. For example, 1B. 9x plus 5 squared is equal to 9x plus 5 times 9x plus 5. So, ano gagawin natin? F muna. F first, sa first. 9x times 9x is 81x squared. Then outer, so 9x at saka 5, that is 45x. And then in, dalawang nasa pinaka-gitna, so that's 5 times 9x is 45x also. And then last terms, you have 5 and 5. You multiply it, the product is 25. And then you combine like terms here, like 45x and 45x. Then you simplify this expression, you will have 81x squared plus 90x plus 25. So in the reverse of factoring is actually the multiplication or finding the products. Okay. Factoring special products, another. Determine whether each trinomial is a perfect square. If so, factor. If not, explain. X squared plus 4x plus 4. As you can see here, x squared and 4 are both perfect squares. Ang kailangan na lang natin patunayan ay yung middle term. Okay? So yung middle term, kuha ka ng isang factor doon sa first, kuha ka ng isang factor doon sa last, and then you multiply it by 2. Lagi yan, ano? You multiply it by 2 always. So x times 2 is 2x, you multiply it by 2, that is equal to 4x. Ibig sabihin, this is an example of a perfect square trinomial. And then, how do you factor that? That's x plus 2 times the quantity of x plus 2 or the quantity of x plus 2. Ayan. So, ito yung kanyang isa pang method. Actually, in mathematics, we have varieties of methods that you can use. What is more important is you know how to deal with all these mathematical expressions. Kahit na anong method ang gamitin nyo, you will still arrive at the same answer. But as a future teacher, you must know the different methods because you are expected to teach all those methods into your students so that they will be having choices kung saan sila mas magiging komportable in solving mathematics. Okay? In this case, nagkaroon ng trial and error, no? Nagkaroon ng factors of 4. The factors of 4, possible factors are 1 and 4. Then the other one or the other pair is 2 and 2. And then tinignan mo lang, alin dyan ang magkakaroon ng sum na 4? Yung 1 at saka 4, the sum is 5. So definitely hindi yung 1 and 4. Yung 2 at saka 2, the sum is equal to 4. So ibig sabihin, ang factor natin ay x plus 2 and x plus 2. Method 2 naman, use the rule, yung a is equal to x and b is equal to 2. Yan. So magiging ganun pa rin yung sagot. Kahit na tulad nga sabi ko kanina, whatever method you use in solving this or finding the factor of these trinomials, you will still arrive at the same answer. Check out example 1b. Determine whether each trinomial is a perfect square. If so, factor. If not, explain. Okay. The trinomial is x squared minus 14x plus 49. Upon examination, you'll see that the first and last term are both perfect squared. Ang problema na lang natin ay yung middle term. So you get the one factors in the first term and then one of the factors at the last term. Then you multiply it by 2. X times 7 is 7. X times 2 is 14. But here, we have a negative sign. So, pwede natin gawin itong negative 7, negative 7. So, this is negative 7. Kaya, ang magiging factor niyan ay x minus 7 times quantity of x minus 7. So, that means that the given trinomial is a perfect square. Paano natin siya ipa-factor? Method 1, kanina, no? Ayan, kuha ka. Alin ang magiging sum ay negative 14. So, that's negative 7 and negative 7. So, the factor, there you go. Yung isa namang method natin, we use the rule. Okay? Upon using the rule, you will also be arriving at the same answer, which is the quantity of x minus 7 squared. We move on to the next example. Determine whether the trinomial is a perfect square. If so, factor, and if not, explain. Our given trinomial is 9x squared minus 6x plus 4. Okay, so simplifying this, you will have, or upon examination, you'll see that 9x squared and 4 are both perfect square. So you get one of the factors of the first term and then one of the factors of the second term. Then you will have 3x times 2 is equal to 12x. So what do we mean by that? 12x to, and that is not equal to negative 6x. So we may say that this is not an example of a perfect square trinomial because negative 6x is not equal to 2 times the quantity of 3x times 2. Here we go. Applying the factoring skills in solving problems. A rectangular piece of cloth must be cut to make a tablecloth. The area needed is 16x squared minus 24x plus 9 square inches. The dimensions of the cloth are of the form Cx minus d, where C and d are whole numbers. Find an expression for the perimeter of the cloth. Find the perimeter when x is equal to 11 inches. As you can see here, we have a problem. The first thing we have to do is to understand the problem. Kailangan naiintindihan mo yung problema. Kasi kung hindi mo naiintindihan yung problema, hindi mo talaga siya masosolve. The answer will be an expression for the perimeter of the cloth and the value of the expression when x is equal to 11, because what is being asked here is find an expression for the perimeter, as you can see here. Find an expression for the perimeter of the cloth. And then find the perimeter when x is equal to 11, meaning we are going to change the value of x to 11 if we already know the perimeter of the cloth. And then list the important information. What are the important information from the problem? The tablecloth is a rectangle with area 16x squared minus 24x plus 9 square inches. As you can see, this is the given expression, but it is in area. And then the side of the tablecloth must be in the form Cx minus d, where C and d are whole numbers. Then the step 2 is to make a plan. How are we going to solve the problem? Take note that the formula for the area of a rectangle is A equals length times width. To get the area of the rectangle, you multiply the length and the width. Then factor 16x squared minus 24x plus 9 to find the length and the width. Of course, since this is the area of the tablecloth, for you to get the length and the width of the tablecloth, you have to factor it. Then write a formula for the perimeter of the tablecloth and evaluate the expression for x equals 11. Then we solve. Take a look. 16x squared minus 24x plus 9. We know that a here is equal to 4x. The square root of 16x squared, and our b is equal to 3, and that is the square root of 9. Then write the trinomials as a squared minus 2ab plus b squared. There you go. You'll have the quantity of 4x squared minus 2 times the quantity of 4x times 3 plus 3 squared. And then you write the trinomial as the quantity of a minus b squared. So this will be the expression now. 4x minus the quantity of 4x minus 3 squared. Or it can also be written as the quantity of 4x minus 3 times the quantity of 4x minus 3. So alam na natin ngayon kung ano yung dimension ng ating rectangular cloth. Parehas silang 4x minus 3. So bawat side or side length ng tablecloth ay 40x minus 3, 4x minus 3 inches. Ayan. So magkamukha, ibig sabihin magkamukha yung length at saka yung width, so that rectangle is an example of a square. Then write a formula for the perimeter of the tablecloth. What is the formula for the perimeter of a square? That's P equals 4S. Perimeter is equal to 4 times sides. Then we substitute the side length for S. Perimeter is equal to 4 times the quantity of 4x minus 3. Pinalitan lang natin si side ng 4x minus 3. And then simplifying it further, you will have 4 times 4, 16x. 4 times negative 3 is negative 12. So this is now the perimeter of our tablecloth. 16x minus 12. So we already answered the first question. Our next task is to answer the second question of this word problem. Evaluate the expression when x is equal to 11, meaning we substitute 11 into the x. T is equal to 16x minus 12. By substitution, you will have 16 times 11 minus 12, and 16 times 11 is equal to 16 times 11 minus 12 is equal to 164. Meaning, when x is equal to 11 inches, the perimeter of the tablecloth is 164 inches. And then of course, hindi pa dyan natatapos. Kung nakuha mo na yung sagot, you have to look back. Meaning, you have to double check your answer. Kasi sometimes, nakakakommit tayo ng mga errors na hindi natin sinasadya. For us to be sure with our answers, then we have to look back. For a square with a perimeter of 164, the side length is 164 over 4 equals 41 inches. Tama naman yun, di ba? So, ibig sabihin kasi noon, apat silang maghahati-hati doon. 164, no? 164 yung kabuuan, yung apat na sides. So, ibig sabihin, bawat side, nagme-measure siya ng 41 inches. And the area is equal to 41 square, which is 1681 inches, square inches. Let us try to evaluate this from the given 16x squared minus 24x plus 9, where x is equal to 11. Dapat ang makuha natin dito ay 1681. Okay? By substitution, you will have 16 times 11 squared minus 24 times 11 plus 9. Then, the answer is 1936 minus 264 plus 9. So, the answer is 1681. Tama. Okay? So, meron tayong check. Kumbaga, na-double check mo yung iyong sagot. Okay? So, that is how factoring special products na ginagawa natin. And also, paano siya ina-apply in solving word problems in mathematics. If you have any questions, you are very much free to send all those in our group chat. Thank you for watching this video. Keep safe everyone. God bless and hope to see you all soon.